Hello, I'm Femi OK, and you're in the stream. Today, what does it mean to play Indian in Hollywood? We'll look at the impact of Native American stereotypes in film. Our digital producer Malika Bilal is here looking out for your live feedback. Didn't have to work very hard today. We got so many responses to this episode.
So the hard work came in sorting through them. We got nearly 250 comments between Google Plus and Facebook alone, and most of them were on the movie The Lone Ranger. So we asked in an informal poll, what stereotypes of Native Americans have our community come across in Hollywood? Tom Laverty sums it up. He says, is all representations of Native Americans an acceptable answer? For those of you at home, you tell us. Join the conversation with the hashtag AJStream.
Oh, I like that. Very feisty. Also, very feisty, sitting in the studio with us, we have Jason Asnap. And Jason is an independent filmmaker who also contributes to the Native American news site Indian Country Today. Jason, I'm such a fan of yours.
Oh, it's good to be here.
So glad to have you.
Thanks.
You'll hear more from Jason in just a moment. Now, in The Lone Ranger, Disney's latest action movie, actor Johnny Depp plays the role of Tonto, a Native American character who some say reinforces negative stereotypes of indigenous people in the United States. Tonto is a spirit warrior who uses broken English and talks to horses. He's basically the sidekick in the Lone Ranger's fight against injustice. Now, those involved in the making of the film defend Tonto's portrayal and say it was done with sensitivity to the native cultures. Now, since the movie's release earlier this month, there's been a huge online backlash, with many calling Tonto just another example of Hollywood's long history of misrepresenting minorities. So, do characters like Tonto help or hurt society's attitudes towards Native Americans? Here to discuss this with us is Theodore Van Oost. He's the director of the Yale Native American Cultural Center. In New York, we have actor and Native American activist Cheske Spencer. You might just recognize him as the Alpha Wolf from the Twilight series. And in Oklahoma, we have Waha Tawika, also known as William Two Raven Volker, who was one of the Native American advisors to the Lone Ranger movie. So William, Cheske, Theodore, and Jason, it's great to have all of you here as part of this discussion. I want to make sure that all of our audience are on the same page. They may not have seen the movie The Lone Ranger, so I am going to show you a little clip. So we find the Lone Ranger and Tonto on a train, shackled together, and the bad guys are after them. Have a look at this.
That's the end of the line. We jump. What about the passengers? They jump. There's children on board. All jump. Have you no decency? Wendigo getting away. No, you're not going anywhere. No. Going somewhere?
Yes. No. No. Yes. No. Yes.
No, we are not.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Shut up!
Shut up indeed. William, I was looking out for your name in the credits yesterday. I was watching The Lone Ranger, just getting ready for this show. You were a consultant on the movie. Where would we see your stamp on the film?
Whenever we come together in a group or council, if you will, introductions are always necessary and a welcome, and that's what I just offered in our language. The imprint that you will see from my efforts and my assistant technical advisor are the subtleties of culture. The appearance of the lead character, that was decided on long before production ever spoke with us. They came to us after that was established and asked for as much historical accuracy as we could provide. And so it's the subtleties. You'll see teepees erected that are the very first time in all of film history are accurate to the Nomana, the Comanche. We are a four-pole foundation teepee dwelling people, and we're always stuck in northern teepees that are built completely different. So you will see that. You will see correct markings on horses and bobbings of tail. You will see actual feathers of historically important avian species on the principal actors that we put on before each scene after a prayerful interaction with the actors. We took off after each scene. And, I could go on, but it's subtleties that you're really not seeing.
So, William, when the film came out, and actually even before the film came out, critics were just ripping it apart and saying that, what's the phrase they use in Hollywood? Whitewashing. They were using an actor who wasn't really Native American, although I understand Johnny Depp has some heritage, playing a character who we could have used anybody from the acting profession who's native in that role. How did that feel to hear that criticism?
Well, Johnny does have Native ancestry. I have no doubt after dealing with his family and going down that road. On top of that, and the one thing I take offense at is that, this constant reference to Native American this, Native American that. This character, and don't lose sight of the fact it's the Lone Ranger. It's a comedic Western, first and foremost. But the character of Tonto is connected only with the Numina, with the Comanche. So before you go crazy on, this Native American pan-Indianism way of looking at a character, it's very specific to who we are.
Right.
The Lone Ranger.
All right, let me just bring in Jason. I see you nodding, Jason. Go for it.
He had said something that's he said pan-Indian, and I find that interesting too, because I've always had this issue with like this is a Johnny Depp was adopted by the Comanche tribe, and Tonto is playing a Comanche character. So the thing I've always wondered, I didn't quite understand about from other tribes is how this is not a pan-Indian character, even though people claim that this is something representational of all tribes, but he's playing a Comanche character, so it's I don't know why anyone else inherently would have a problem with that, other than everyone owning this character. It's political also. It comes to questions of nationalism, and it's I've always that's just one part of it of that character that.
And yet, inherently, some of our community members do have a problem with it. Queen Kalia on Twitter says, it makes no sense to hire Johnny Depp to play a Native American. I'm sure there are plenty of talented Native American actors, but there's a tweet here from Coco who says, they're actors, they're acting. Johnny Depp is a great example of this. If all you can see is their skin, aren't you the racist one? Cheske, I'd like to go to you with that because, of course, you are a Native American actor. Would you like to pick up on that?
Yeah. Well, I've always admired Johnny Depp and his work, and since I was a kid, I've always known that he's claimed Native heritage before Lone Ranger. I remember that back in the late 80s and 90s. So it didn't surprise me when he wanted to do Lone Ranger. Yeah, but what it also comes down to is money. At the end of the day is who can bring the seats, who can bring the ticket sales. And there really isn't a Native actor out there who can do that, who can bring that type of name on the marquee to bring in at the end of the sales. But that's the way the system's set up. Now I believe that it's up to Native artists, up to the actors, the directors, the writers, and if Native peoples want to get into producing, I believe it's up to us to help to able to shake that system up.
Let me just bring in Ted. Ted, what do you make of that? It's really just business. It's not personal or racism or stereotyping or whitewashing even.
I think Chaske's being a little modest. I'm pretty sure he could have carried the Lone Ranger if he wanted to. I've seen him act. So I think, Chaske's right. We've all talked about this a little bit. Johnny Depp is an actor, and at the end of the day, he's trying to create a character. He's an artist in his own right. And what Chaske is saying is really important. At the end of the day, this is a money-making venture. Hollywood's not going to crank out a bunch of films that there's no return on. And so Johnny Depp is sort of the go-to guy. I think what they wanted to do is create an extremely unique character here that they could probably build a franchise on, because that seems to be the Hollywood system lately, right? So we have everything related to it. We're looking at, Halloween costumes, and I'm kind of worried this fall for our young ones, trying to explain that one away. But it's very much a blockbuster system, and it's the summertime.
And Ted, there's someone here who agrees with you on Facebook. Bert says, the roles go to the actors who can make the biggest draw at the box office. It has nothing to do with who is more or less ethnic than someone else. But Jason, isn't this what we've heard from time immemorial? I mean, this is what we hear when minority actors are not placed in these roles because they won't make as much money. So then how do we get out of that?
Well, we concentrate on the indies, which is where the writing and directing from Native people is happening. Like the Sundance Institute has a Native initiative, and I was a part of that in 2011. There is writing and directing happening, but it's happening at the independent level. And in Hollywood, as Chaske and Theo said, and I completely agree with them, that's a business. And then you kind of have to let Hollywood do Hollywood. And then if you want those stories made by Native people, those Native stories, you have to look at the independents.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I agree with Jason. Is that there are very talented Native writers and directors out there, but at the end of the, it's finding the money to support that. And if anything, Lone Ranger should be a wake-up call to Native people and artists and people who want to back Native films, to able to do this for ourselves, because there's a lot of great Native independents out there. And it just takes a little research to find them. They're great movies, but you got to look for them. And hopefully, maybe some point we'll be able to do this to make a mainstream impact, or a film that's written and directed by Native people and starring Native people will be a hit. But it's a tough road. But I do see some changes. Some changes, not a lot, but some.
All right, Chaske, let's talk stereotypes for a moment for Native parts. You must have had some scripts which just made you cry to look at them. Take us through some of the stereotypes that you've been sent to play.
Yeah, a lot of it's with the shirt off, the leather and feather, and just written very horribly. And as an actor, as an artist, I'm not against turning roles like that down if they're written very well, and I can stretch myself as an artist that way, or if it's a new take on a story. I don't mind doing that. I'm all for that. But some of the stuff that's written by non-natives, I've turned down a lot of scripts to, and luckily I've been lucky enough to where I've been able to do movies about contemporary Native people. So
Chaske, I'm actually watching video of you with your shirt off, and you're acting beautifully, and I'm averting my eyes and looking totally at your face and not at your incredible abs, which obviously I can't see because I'm not noticing them. Tell me about Twilight, and how is the Native community looking at that? I don't want to be pan-Indian because I know I'm going to get in trouble for that, but you go around and you're an activist and you do activism. How is Twilight helping you with that?
Well, without Twilight, let's be honest, I wouldn't be here. It was a huge franchise, and at the end of the day, you can say what you want. I know so either I hate it or you love it. But at the end of the day, it's given me a platform to use that to help out with Native causes. But also, it's given me a career. I've also been able to go out for stuff that's not written for Native people, which I'm very grateful for as an actor, because at least I'm being seen. But yeah, it's had a huge impact in that sense. And, when someone throws you a ball, you should be able to try to run as fast and hard as you can with it, or someone tackles you.
Femi, you asked about stereotypes. Our community shared lots of them. Sakura says Native Americans fall into the noble, savage stereotype. There's also the savage, the idle, the cannibalistic, backwards people who are unworthy of existing in the modern world, TV Ralph says. So William, I guess the same question to you. Have there been projects that you wanted to turn away from because they did not represent your community accurately?
We do not exist for the movie industry. It's on rare occasion that a project will come to us and ask for historical accuracy. Our life's work, and I'm not talking a job, I'm talking a lifetime of work that is based on generations of historically accurate culture. We rarely get involved with the movie industry. However, in this case, there were some aspects of the project that were so close to what we could turn around and use to put historical accuracy out in front of our young people. We no longer have the multi-generational households where young people are learning from the older generations. Our young people are not going to museums or opening books, and most of the books, what's written is wrong. But they are watching the large and the small screen. So anything of historically accurate culture that we can commit to film, that is what we base our decision whether or not we get involved with a project. We've done very few. But unfortunately, there are very few culturally traditional people in the tribe. I'd say less than 1% of our people go that way today. So it behooves us to put as much accuracy in front of our young people, no matter what vehicle we use.
Ted, I want you to help us get a little deeper with this conversation, because this is just, The Lone Ranger is just a Disney movie. It's a blockbuster, it will come and go. It didn't actually do that well at the box office, or hasn't so far. But what do stereotypes like Tonto and other characters that we build up in the way we look at movies and native characters, what impact does that have?
Well, I mean, it's a historical period piece, which seems to be America's fascination with Native people. If you look at the last sort of big Hollywood blockbuster, you know, the Dances with Wolves is set, you know, in the late 18th century, and I think partly that's part of the problem. That's why I look at film, because it always wants to peg people in that sort of, you know, right before you know, Wounded Knee, and everybody has to look like Graham Greene flying down on the plains with a full war bonnet in order to be considered Indian or to be a native person. And so when we constantly look at those versus contemporary native people, that's something that a lot of people carry with them in trying to teach, you know, native film or native literature. We have to spend a lot of time sort of, you know, dispelling those stereotypes and getting students and other people to sort of think of native people as contemporary citizens in the world. So when you have something, you know, like The Lone Ranger, it's great, it's a period piece and everything, but I think my takeaway from that was in the language. You know, he's using the Tano speak that I listened to when I was a kid, watching The Lone Ranger, you know, on Channel 9 in Chicago on Saturday mornings. And so I was always kind of curious about why that language was the way it was, and I was hopeful that maybe Johnny Depp could play that as a joke. You know, maybe certain audiences of his within the film, he would use this sort of, you know, stilted and stunted way of speaking with a wink to the camera, where he's like, really, you know, I'm a polyglot person.
Right.
You know, I speak Numana, and I speak Spanish and English and all these other languages really well. And that's what I was hoping to see.
You know, Ted, you just dropped a lot of pearls of wisdom on us. But one of them I want to pick up on is contemporary Native people, because we got a video comment asking about just that. Have a listen.
Left to Hollywood, Native Americans would be relegated to olden times, savages fraught with need for a great white savior. Images like this, historically inaccurate dramatizations of paint and feather-wearing warriors, tell stories of a people who have all but disappeared. And in that lies the danger of the Hollywood Native stereotype. We're like museum artifacts from back then, good to look at, but absent from any modern context. And the message to real Natives today, you and issues important to you, don't rate.
So William, you had mentioned historical accuracy, but what about the modern day context?
Well, you know, if that's what you want, that's a whole different area. But we are dedicated absolutely to historical accuracy of the time frame that our people endured forced captivity. Our feeling and the basis for our research is that this generation fought to the death to bring these cultural lifeways forward. Somebody has to keep true and preserve what they brought forward. It just so happened that The Lone Ranger is set in that time frame just prior to our forced captivity. But I have to make a comment about the language thing that I think it's Ted that mentioned, and we're getting beat up on that. But I founded SIA, the Comanche Nation Eagle and Raptor Program. Something that we tried to establish for 40 years was a tribal feather repository, which allows us to distribute feathers of culturally important birds to all members of federally recognized tribes. So we're hearing from many of those 500 and some odd federally recognized tribes, and I can't tell you how many people from other tribes speak just like you hear Tonto speaking. Trust me, I deal with them every day.
So William, no kidding, they seriously say that?
They
on train,
do.
Gotta jump off train. Train now.
I'm sorry,
Seriously?
that broken English. I mean, it's a reality. The big problem we have with most of the critics are the educated Indians. You know, the people that have gone and done what they have to fit, you know, the Anglo academic or scientific realm, and then they come back and look at you know, people that have not gone through academia and, you know, pick it apart. But
William,
trust me, people still talk like that.
William, we have a little bit pushback here. Jason?
No, I kind of, to build upon what William was saying, is like, there's, you have to understand that the film was set in this certain period where probably this character probably didn't understand English very well, but not to go on and on about that. But I think that the film brings a lot of agendas come out. I think what William was talking about is like a lot of people have a lot of agendas that are coming out that they put upon this film, and they want it they want it to fulfill these agendas that they have, whether it be historical accuracy or Native American representation.
Is this because there aren't enough natives in movies?
Well, yeah, I think what it comes down to is a lot of people are very frustrated.
Yeah,
and they have all these, But
it's a Disney movie, for goodness sake. Why would
I agree.
We're going to have a 40-minute conversation. That's the peg. I want to hear about the movies that you're making and Chasky are making. We're going to do that in the post show. But isn't that the answer, really?
It truly is.
Tell your own story.
It truly is. I mean, I can't wait to see Chasky's film. Winter in the Blood, which is based on one of my favorite
Did you pay him
writers.
money to say that?
No. I actually want to talk to Chaske later.
It's fantastic.
And we have a clip of it, so we're going to play a little bit of footage. Chaske, we're almost getting in towards the end of the show. We're going to come back in the post show, but tell us very briefly about that movie and why we should go see it.
Winter in the Blood is based on a James Welsh novel, and what I liked about it is what took me to the novel was it talks about a Native American man in a period of time in Native history when they were in the in-between stage. And I like it. It talks about the alcoholism. It's very contemporary. It's non-linear as well. It's directed by Alexander Smith.
Right.
And I don't know. I'm very proud of the work. I'm very proud of the movie. We worked really hard on it. I can't wait for people to see it.
Yes.
Everyone's going to walk away with their own opinion, but overall, I think it's a very it's a good film.
All right, so Chaske, Theo, and also William and Jason, we are going to take an intermission for now because we have to find out other stories that we're following here on the stream. But we'll be back at stream.aljazeera.com with the post show and more talk about Native American Indians at the movies. But right now, here's Malika with the leads.
McDonald's is receiving heat after launching a website intended to show employees how to budget their salaries. Their sample budget allocates $20 per month for health insurance and $600 for rent. While critics say those numbers are unrealistic, they note the budget leaves no money at all for heating or other living costs. The group Low Pay Is Not Okay released this video showing that the budget doesn't include food or clothing. They argue it proves just how difficult life is for people living on a typical McDonald's salary. Theo tweets, "Minimum wages are so terrible, McDonald's gives its employees a sample budget where they have a second job." A McDonald's spokesperson says the website was only meant to be a free resource. The samples on this site are examples intended to help provide a general outline of what a budget may look like. Our next lead's out of Kenya, where one clause in a newly proposed marriage bill has some people panicking. According to the bill, which began trending across Kenya, men and women will be held accountable for making empty promises to their partner. Promises like saying you'll marry them but failing to deliver, or taking a second or third wife without informing the first. While some Kenyans on Twitter praised the bill, others weren't so enthusiastic. Saudi tweets, "Fellas, be careful what you promise your lady and vice versa. You might get sued if you don't marry her." Tutsi says, "On a date, you have the right to remain silent. Anything you say will and shall be used against you in a court of law." What do you think of the proposed marriage bill? We want you to send us your thoughts using hashtag AJStream. Femi?
The courts are going to be very busy in Kenya.
busy.
That bill becomes law. We will be following that very carefully. Thank you so much, Malika. Now, on tomorrow's show, in Russia, you can now face fines or jail time for committing blasphemy or for being gay. The laws have just been passed, but young citizens are not happy. We'll find out more tomorrow. Stay with us. The post show is next at stream.aljazeera.com. You know where we will be online. Thanks for watching. Hello again, this is the Streams Online Post Show. Today we're talking about the impact of Native American stereotypes in Hollywood film. Our guests today are writer and independent filmmaker Jason Asnaf, Theodora Van Olst of the Yale Native American Cultural Center in New York. We have actor and activist Cheske Spencer, and in Oklahoma, Wahatuika, also known as William Two Raven Volker. He was the consultant on the film The Lone Ranger. I want to get back to the conversation. Doesn't time go fast, gentlemen, though? We've only got a little bit more time left over, and one of the things I wanted to ask you about was we don't see enough Native American writers, directors, movie stars. Can you tip us off as to people to watch out for, Jason, other than yourself? Who would you say?
Sterling Harjo, who's a Muskogee Creek filmmaker in Oklahoma. Black Horse Low, definitely based in Albuquerque.
And why? Why?
Those two, to me, I really admire their aesthetic. They've had some films in the Sundance Festival.
Right.
They just make great films. They make films that are representative of where they come from. And they're not trying to teach lessons. More importantly, they're just telling beautiful stories and photographed beautifully with great actors. You know, that's the important thing.
Speaking of great actors, Cheske, I know you don't need the competition, but who else is out there who you think, wow, I'd love to work with them?
Well, I've already worked with a lot of the Native actors that I came up admiring: Gary Farmer, Chweg, Graham Greene, Rodney Grant, Koryanka Kelcher, Alex Rice. You know, there's a lot of Native in the community, a lot of actors out there working, and they do brilliant and wonderful work. I'd like to see more support of them. And like, I'm a fan of Harjo, and Stephen Paul Judd is another writer-director who I'm a big fan of.
And what's your biggest challenge? What's your biggest challenge? I noticed that on your bio, you do mention your heritage. So you're obviously using it as a selling point, but what's your challenge when it comes to getting work?
I wouldn't say I was using it as a selling point. It's who I am.
Right.
I don't think you would ask someone of an African descent or Irishman, my heritage is who I am.
Sure.
I guess what I do use, some success I've had, is to help bring light to Native causes, since there is somewhat of a spotlight on me through being an actor and being in the Twilight franchise. But if someone's gonna use me for media or propaganda somewhat, then I might as well use it to my own advantage as well, and use it to help other people. So that's just how I conduct myself with media.
Okay, Malika.
Interesting comment here from Dylan on Facebook. He says, it's a luxury to cast any production with proper ethnicity actors who also happen to fill their roles according to the director's vision. And Mimi picks up on that. Ted, she says, more to the point, this is why it matters when non-white stories are written by whites. And she gives the example of Tonto and the movie The Help. So I wonder if you can elaborate a little bit on that, because we don't really see movies in which Native American actors are doing normal things.
Right. I mean, again, we have to go back to the indie realm that Jason mentions. I would like to note, though, that Winter in the Blood is written and directed by non-natives, by Alex and Andrew Smith and Ken White, and I think they really understand the James Welch novel, and they've done a great job with that. So I won't plug that anymore. But
are you happy, Cheske? How much did you pay all of our guests to keep mentioning your movie? We're done with this film right now. Just go see it. Go on, Ted.
It is. I can't express enough. You people, if you're out there, you really need to see this film.
What? We are moving on, Ted. If you don't move on.
I like what Jason's talking about in Albuquerque. I thought was a really interesting thing with Ramona Emerson and himself, Melissa Henry, Black Horse Low, Brian Young. It reminds me a lot of sort of the French New Wave. You have everybody sort of working on each other's films, helping each other out, and this sort of Hollywood East, this new Hollywood, whatever you want to call it, is really exciting, and that's where it's going to come from. I'm also thinking too of Jeff Barnaby, who's working up north out of Montreal. He's a Mi'kmaq director and writer, and I just want to go back to something that he said after Avatar came out. You know, a lot of people, social media, Facebook, were like, you know, when are white folks going to stop making, you know, movies like Avatar? And he said, you know, when are we going to start making movies like Avatar? When are Native people going to make those films? And Chaskai hit that too. It's money, it's funding, it's all those things. But as we tell those contemporary stories, I think, you know, Hollywood's got to notice, and I think we're going to get there eventually.
William, the peg for our conversation is a Disney blockbuster. Nobody's going to pretend that this is great art. But if you can think of a film where you think, actually, all of our audience around the world should go out and see this film because I love the way that Native American Indians are portrayed in it, what would be your top choice? What would you put on my film list?
I couldn't give you one.
Really? Is it that bad?
Well, you know, like the other guests have been saying, you know, we've got a long way to go, but I think our primary contribution to The Lone Ranger is the way in which Hollywood deals with our sacred and culturally accurate subject matter. You know, on set, you know, there were prayerful ways executed every day. The stuntmen came to us on a daily basis for equipsa and other protective items that we use. And Johnny, you know, he was painted equipsa every day. That's a protective paint that we use. The whole way the cast and crew operated, we had people who had loved ones that became ill, actually someone who lost their mother, and they came for traditional prayerful ways. So it set a completely different tone, and especially with, you know, the presence of medicine items on set. I mean, there was a respect and sensitivity that's, I guess, what I'm most proud of bringing to the production.
Jason, I feel that with you, we have this new guard. I don't feel that you're ever going to make a Western.
I don't think I'd ever have the money to make a Western.
Right.
But yeah.
What do you want to do with film? Because people are going to look at you and say, okay, he's Native, I'm watching his work very carefully. Are you comfortable with that?
I would just be happy if anyone watches it, actually. But I mean, to get serious, I mean, it's like I just want to make, you know, quality work. You know, the people I work with, I want to make quality work. We just want to tell good stories, you know, and hope interesting stories, you know, and film them beautifully, and then, you know, put it out there. Don't want to. Just want to stay away from being didactic, because I feel that just like weighs stories down, and I don't want the weight of a Native filmmaker or anything that's too much. I mean, I'll take it. I mean, I am a Native filmmaker, but I don't want to operate under that definition, you know, because I think it weighs the work down, and you just want to do the best work you can.
Right.
It's hard enough to make a movie as it is, you know.
Ted, are you seeing movies changing as far as representation of Natives are concerned?
I think what Jason's talking about he's right. You're talking about this carrying of the culture, carrying of all the issues in film, and it makes it really hard to get to, you know, the aesthetics of the film. If you watch a film like from back in the day, like Naturally Native, it covers all the issues of, you know, disenrollment and adoptions and racism and all of those things. And you know, we're getting now to the point where people are beginning to transcend or just forget about those. They're just telling stories that are just stories that are greatly told in beautiful ways. Jason's film Rugged Guy is an excellent film and a great example of that. It's funny, it's poignant, it's all of those things, and it looks great on screen. So as we begin to understand, you know, or America understands that Native people are contemporary individuals who are telling great stories, those stories will get out in the world and should create that support that people will want to hear more.
I want to end how we started. You have something to say?
Yeah.
It's going to be very quick, Jason.
I'll try to be very brief.
All right, go on.
Smoke Signals is another one of those films that people will harken back to and they say, "Oh, I love this film. Smoke Signals," but it's kind of guilty of those same things that Theo's talking about. Is like it has all of these things it's trying to say, and it's like, I guess it's the problem with there's not enough Native films. It's like, it's why we talk about them. It's like we try to do as much as we can when we have a platform or whatever, and the more that come out, the better, I guess, it's going to be. You know?
We've given our international audience so many names and so many films that they're going to all be searching and to follow up on and things to see at the cinema. So I have to thank you all very much indeed for being part of this conversation. Malika and I were so excited to be in it, and you didn't let us down. And I want to end the same way we started, and that was with Wahatoika. You gave us a greeting to start off our show. Can you give us a greeting to end the show?
Ta'apa oka namahaitsna voning quina mavitsua tosoma quitsua. Good being with you all today.
I couldn't have put it better myself. So, thank you very much, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure. What are we doing on Wednesday? Well, in Russia, you can now face jail time for committing blasphemy or for being gay. We'll tell you tomorrow how Russian activists are reacting to these very new laws. So, in the meantime, you know where we'll be at stream.aljazeera.com. Thanks for watching.